Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 5.
We begin tonight with breaking news. An investigator says NDSU's president did not violate higher ed policies when dealing with media rules for athletics coverage. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The attorney found that Brishani did not lie when he said he did not know about the media guidelines before they were issued July 29th. The report did say that his communication and decision-making could have been better. The media guidelines were announced July 29th and rescinded by Brishani on August 2nd. He was criticized over the guidelines that some in local media felt were too restrictive. Local media that did not win the bids were upset. Forum Communications was one that was very vocal about the change, even calling in one editorial for Brishani to resign. But they wanted restrictions if they won the bid. Valley News Live won the television rights to broadcast football games.
Yeah, a little bit, because then she's like, you should be safe. And I was like, I didn't really know how to take that, I guess.
Two black men wearing black ski masks carrying handguns. That's the latest information we have from Fargo police after an overnight armed robbery a few blocks south of the NDSU campus. The frightening situation happened along Dakota Drive North, a neighborhood home to many college students. Valley News Team's Bradford Eric has more details in this developing situation in a neighborhood not new to police investigations.
It was just about 9 p.m. when police got the call of an armed robbery and brought in a canine to track the perpetrators, described as about 6 feet tall with a thin build, finding no one.
All of a sudden, a cop came up to me and she started asking me some questions. She first asked my name, and so I gave her that information, and then she asked if I saw anyone exit the building. And I said no, and then she asked me if I saw anyone wearing a ski mask.
Police say the suspects entered through an unlocked door, and one male was seen wearing black Nike tennis shoes. But this is far from the first issue police have ever had here. Just down the block, multiple search warrants were filed back in June of this year for the same apartment building, all of them for drugs, and the occupants of one of those apartments were wanted for questioning in a murder investigation. Scary, concerning, frightening?
Yeah, it was, once I heard about it, actually, my boyfriend called me and he was like, hey, there's something going on in your apartment. And I was like, oh, I thought I heard something outside.
Police aren't saying yet if this is drug related, but simply walking by the garden level apartments, you can see plenty of things just sitting outside. As for parents, make sure you know college students know to not let technology block out their surroundings and that they don't walk alone late at night. In Fargo, Bradford Eric, Valley News Live.
This was also the same area south of the NDSU campus that was featured last fall in an investigation we did regarding bicycle thefts. To see that story, click on this story at valleynewslive.com. Not a lot going on in this area, but rain and storms are brewing in western North Dakota. Hutch, will they make it here tonight?
Well, for some of us, we will have a chance of some thunderstorms, but it looks like we make it through the evening hours before any activity shifts eastward. Right now, we have thunderstorms racing from the South Dakota border north towards the international border tonight. Some of those storms could be on the strong side, but there's a risk of severe weather, mainly in western portions of South Dakota. Snow flying in the mountains of Wyoming and Montana, and there is actually a winter storm warning for the elevated terrain in north central Montana. For us, mid and upper 70s means no snow in our forecast for this evening, but the wind will be persistent and gusty. Temperatures slipping into the upper 60s later tonight. Not a bad evening if you can handle the wind. Coming up, our forecast shows much cooler weather, and there will be a chance for a flake or two in the forecast for some of us. I'll have details on all of that in the next few minutes.
Those words we don't want to hear this time of year, snow and flakes.
Flakes, yeah, unless it's breakfast cereal. Nobody wants to talk about flakes.
Thanks,
You bet.
An investigation into a shotgun being fired inside a Moorhead home has resulted in 2 arrests. Last Tuesday, Moorhead police responded to 824 2nd Avenue South for a disturbance involving a shotgun being discharged into a wall. Police say once they arrived on scene, they realized the incident was a robbery involving narcotics. 23-year-old Chantel McGuire of Tower City was taken into custody for her involvement in the incident. She's facing second-degree assaults, aggravated first-degree robbery, and first-degree aiding and aggravated robbery. All those charges. Also in custody is 22-year-old Christopher Martell of Fargo. He's facing the same felony charges. A Fosston, Minnesota man is facing numerous charges after allegedly breaking into his ex-girlfriend's home. 45-year-old Kelly Chun faces 2 counts of first-degree burglary and misdemeanor charges of assault, arson, and damage to property. Court records say he was intoxicated when he broke into his ex-girlfriend's home in Fosston. He's accused of kicking down the door, starting a curtain on fire, and dragging her outside by the wrist. Chun was on probation for an arson charge in Bemidji. If convicted, he faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison on each of the new burglary charges. The Otter Tail County Sheriff is asking for your help finding a missing man who they say is a vulnerable adult. 89-year-old Thomas Allstop has not been heard from since noon on Wednesday. Allstop lives on the south side of Spitzer Lake near Otter Tail County Highway 38. An extensive air, land, and water search for Allstop was conducted last Friday around his home. Allstop is 5 foot 8 inches tall, weighs about 135 pounds, and wears glasses. He does not have a vehicle. We have some new information for you surrounding a strange arrest in Grand Forks we first told you about yesterday. This story may serve as a strong reminder for parents to make sure their children know how to deal with strangers. 41-year-old Eric John Larson was charged with disorderly conduct after a bizarre encounter with 2 boys. Valley News Team's Neil Carlson has the latest information on this case.
It happened Sunday afternoon here on the 2400 block of 10th Avenue North in Grand Forks. Police say Eric Larson was walking down the street and began a conversation with 2 young boys.
Well, you know, initially they made a report of a possible attempted child abduction. I think more just out of the circumstances that an unknown subject was possibly intoxicated, offering their children money and so forth.
In this case, the boy's father heard part of the conversation from his nearby home. He then ordered the boys back inside the house and called police. Eric Larson was picked up by police a few blocks later and charged with disorderly conduct.
At this point, that's unclear if there was a specific request for the kids to follow, but you know, the subject was offering the kids money and so forth, and you know, it certainly was concerning to the parents.
According to court records, Larson does not have a serious criminal history, just 9 traffic violations in Bottineau County. However, police say this incident can serve as a reminder for parents to make sure their kids know how to deal with strangers.
And if in the end they're overreacting, it's far better for the kids to you know, call for their parents rather than us risk losing a child. So, and in this case, the parents did the right thing. The dad heard some sort of a conversation out there and yelled for the kids to come back to the house.
Mackey says it also means instructing your kids to run to the nearest known adult, or in some instances, it might mean running to the nearest adult who's with children. In Grand Forks, Neil Carlson, Valley News Live.
Eric Larson faces a misdemeanor disorderly conduct charge that carries a maximum sentence of 30 days in jail. He has bailed out on jail on a bond of $151. 6 people were shot early this morning in 2 separate shootings in Minneapolis. Around 2 o'clock, someone opened fire outside the Minneapolis Police Department's downtown precinct. 2 men were shot in the leg, and police found a handgun nearby. About 15 minutes later, officers responded to a second shooting blocks away. That's where they found 3 men and 1 juvenile shot. 1 was seriously injured. Police are not sure if the 2 shootings are connected. They are questioning a suspect in the second incident. The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources says no to the FM diversion project. The DNR says it cannot move forward as proposed. Commissioner Tom Landwehr says while flood protection is important, this is not the way to do it. And he says it can't be permitted under state law. Specifically, Landwehr says there is already flood protection in place in Fargo-Moorhead, with more planned. He says the project doesn't meet the requirement to be a reasonable and practical solution. Landwehr also says concerns of upstream communities have not yet been addressed. Some of the impacts of the diversion may be severe and not reversible. Diversion Authority Chairman Daryl Vanyo tells Valley News Live the authority and its attorneys have not yet had time to fully read and digest the DNR's nearly 50-page decision, but he says there is an appeal process and an appeal is possible. Most of you probably have some paper documents sitting around, things like credit card receipts and bank statements and medical information. That's the kind of thing that could turn into a financial disaster for you should it fall into the wrong hands. North Dakota Governor Jack Dalrymple has declared this week Protect Your Identity Week. Starting tomorrow, you'll get the chance to have your personal documents shredded. And if a lot of that information is on your computer, they'll also get rid of your hard drives. The record keepers are teaming up with The Village for that endeavor.
You got to make sure that you dispose of these, the junk mail you get, the bank statements, credit card statements, old taxes. Got to make sure you dispose of it correctly, because one of the biggest ways that the criminals get your information is through dumpster diving, so finding these documents in the garbage. So it is important to shred them, make sure that they're disposed of where they cannot be read or pieced back together.
You can take your documents and hard drives to The Village between 7:30 and 4 tomorrow. You're limited to 4 Bankers boxes and 2 hard drives. There is no charge, but a $5 donation is suggested, and that will go to the United Way. It's the season of hot soups, and tonight many people are getting bowls full of gourmet recipes to help a local organization. More than 30 chefs and local celebrities cooked up soups to help raise awareness and money for Churches United for the Homeless. Tonight, funds will help support individuals and families who are staying in the shelters. Churches United then tries to help people become more stable to move into permanent housing.
We have the community center at the shelter that serves 3 meals a day, Monday through Friday, and 2 meals on the weekend, but that's a very different thing than being able to cook a meal for your family in your own kitchen.
The average person who needs help stays with a shelter for 42 days. For more on how you can help Churches United, go to valleynewslive.com and click on our hot button for a link. Is it the new eBay or Craigslist? Facebook has introduced another way for you to buy and sell your items. That's still ahead tonight.
Windy today in Fargo, but we kissed 80 gorgeous degrees as summer-like temperatures ensued. As we take a look elsewhere across the region, plenty warm in Grand Forks and Jamestown as well. It was gusty. Details on colder air heading our way next.